microtransactions and
DRM.
Downloadable content.
What's up, gamers? Welcome to Gamer Rant. My name's Kevin, and today we are going to be doing a discussion of the overall idea and concept of the Final Fantasy VII Remake being broken up in parts. This is my part 2 to the Final Fantasy VII Remake demo. This part, I'm not going to actually talk about the demo. I did that in the first part. Okay? So a link to that video will be pinned in the comments below, and vice versa. Let me try to get you to understand where I'm coming from. My favorite Final Fantasy game is Final Fantasy IX. My overall favorite RPG is The Legend of Dragoon. It's the first one I played. Now, we're going to play a little game here. We're going to play this game that Square Enix didn't announce, a Final Fantasy VII Remake. Let's pretend that they announced a remake of 9. Or let's also pretend that it wasn't even Square Enix. It was Sony. They're going to do a remake of The Legend of Dragoon. And they're going to break these games up into parts because the story is just too vast, or it's changing, it's evolving, whatever it is you want to use to define or defend their reasoning. And to me, as a fan of 9 and as a fan of The Legend of Dragoon, I could not consciously sit there and support that, knowing that the only reason why they're doing it is for money. They're not doing it because they have a greater story to tell. They're not doing it for any kind of artistic representation. It has everything to do with money and absolutely nothing to do with an artistic view. And, you know, I'm going to go out on a limb here and dare say that that's not even my opinion. That's a fact. Because when we look at this from the perspective of Final Fantasy VII, what is Final Fantasy VII? In terms to RPG players, most RPG players, it's considered the most popular, probably not even just Final Fantasies, but the most popular RPG. So you have to ultimately ask yourself, and you also have to try and see this from my perspective, because if you're a person that is gonna you know, buy this, pre-order it, whatever, all right, good on you. I'm not saying that you're a dirtbag or a shitfuck or anything like that for supporting it. I do believe that you are harming the video game community as a whole, but I'm not going to in any way iterate that you're a shitbag or a dirtbag, or you're anywhere on the same level as the fake-ass gamers that buy microtransactions. That, you know, when I look at this, Final Fantasy VII is their most popular game, and you want to sit here and you want to tell me that this isn't about money? Because it has everything to do with money. They want to break this game up, not because they have a greater story to tell, but because money. And, you know, the one thing that I sit here and I think about, and that I'm worried about, and I don't plan on getting the game. To me, it's like, all right, so we know that it's going to be from this portion and this portion, which, when I've spoken to, you know, more diehard Final Fantasy VII fans, that's a pretty small fucking portion of the overall game. And, you know, some of them are worried. You know, I've talked to some that have pre-ordered it, but they're at the same time, they're also worried. You know, how much filler are they going to put inside this? You know, is this going to be, they say it's going to be a full game, but what is their definition of a full game? Are we talking about is going to be the average length of the original Final Fantasy VII? Is that what we're talking about? Each part is going to be the average length of the overall original Final Fantasy game? Is it going to be somewhere around, you know, the average playtime of 40 hours? Is it going to be like 30 hours and maybe 10 hours of side quests? You know, so there are people out there that are getting this, and they do have their concerns. And to me, it's like, all right, if you have this concern, why would you pre-order it? Because to me, that doesn't make any sense. If you have this concern, why would you go down that route with basically such little information? Because that is such little information. They really haven't expanded upon this. And we don't really know how much filler, if any, is going to be in the first game, in the second game, and however many of these games they plan on making. But to me, when I heard all of this, minus, you know, the fans, their concerns about it, because that was after the fact. When I heard this, to me it was like, They're milking this. This is a cash grab. This is clearly a cash grab. How do the fans not see this? Because if this was replaced with my favorite game in any genre, I wouldn't support it. I mean, that's me. You're not me if you are going to support it. Maybe your concerns aren't as big as mine. Maybe you're not as worried as I am. Maybe you are worried, but you're going to give Square Enix the benefit of the doubt because they're not Electronic Arts. Because I've used that as an example as well. You know, imagine if Electronic Arts take their most popular franchise outside of sports that they haven't touched in a while, and then take any game out of that franchise that is the most popular, and would you honestly, you know, follow them in that same ideology of we have to break this game up, and people aren't going to clearly see it as a cash grab? To me, if this was Electronic Arts, people would be doing that, and they wouldn't like it. But maybe that's part of my own thinking. The problem with my own thinking, you know, Square Enix isn't necessarily Electronic Arts. They really haven't been in the negative limelight as much as, you know, some of these larger companies, Blizzard, Activision, Ubisoft, so on and such forth. So maybe it's not necessarily that people are giving the game a pass. Maybe they're hoping and attempting to give Square Enix the benefit of the doubt because, well, they aren't like Electronic Arts. Maybe they have made some mistakes. But to me, even if you want to go down that route, all right, I can't fully still see or understand why anyone would do this. And maybe it's because I don't want to use the term diehard, but I'm not a diehard fan of Final Fantasy VII. I enjoyed the game. It has its cliches, its quirks, its problem. It's not as great as it's made out to be. I think that it's oversaturated. But at the same time, don't get me wrong, because I also see the flaws in Final Fantasy IX and The Legend of Dragoon, two games that I enjoy. And, you know, to me, I have more respect for when I run into somebody on the internet or even in person, because I ran into people at local craft stop talking about Final Fantasy VII. And, you know, I voiced my concerns about this and my overall opinion. I think it's a cash grab. And I'm actually quite surprised how many of them agree with me. But they're still going to give Square Enix the benefit of the doubt. In fact, one of them actually stated, as the example that I mentioned, they're going to give them the benefit of the doubt because they haven't been in the limelight like Electronic Arts or Bethesda or, you know, Ubisoft or anything of that nature. They've had their share of screw-ups, but nothing on that level of Electronic Arts. They say that doesn't mean they're not skeptical and they hope that they don't get burned, but they're going to give them the benefit of the doubt because they're not Electronic Arts. And to me, I sit there and I'm like, okay, I can see that from that perspective. All right. I understand what you're saying. All right. But me, I still wouldn't give them the benefit of the doubt. And maybe that's just because I've seen all these other companies screw consumers over. So when I see something like this, of the most popular game from this company being broken up, I don't see it as, oh, that's cool. They're gonna add to this story. They're gonna make it better, which is totally possible. Maybe they actually end up doing it. I see it as they're purposely breaking it up in order to make more money from it. To me, it has nothing to do with an artistic representation. Could I be wrong? Of course I could. Could I be right? Yes. There's no honest way that we would actually be able to confirm this. One might say, well, we could talk to the developers or the creators, but let's be honest. At the end of the day, they're still a business, and we know that businesses, even Square Enix, aren't going to be fully honest about why they're doing something. This is my skepticism when it comes to Final Fantasy VII, the remake. I'm not going to say, and if I have said this in previous videos, I apologize. But I'm not going to sit here and say that you're a dumbass or anything like that. I do feel that you are in some way kind of hurting the gaming community as a whole by supporting this. But again, that's just my opinion. Does it make you a bad person? No. I think that, like, for the most part, pretty much sums up my overall thoughts on this Final Fantasy VII Remake. You know, I would say at the end of the day, I hope that you guys don't get burned. that this first game comes out and it's not a bunch of filler, or that they changed it in such a way that you ultimately feel it doesn't do the original justice. And I also hope that, you know, if you're a fan of Final Fantasy VII, I hope we don't get people, because this is another concern that I have, and this has nothing to do with the company, but the fan base, is that I hope this game doesn't come out, or these games come out, and people forget about the original. You know, oh, this is way better than the original. You know, I actually, I read a comment where somebody said that Final Fantasy VII is now going to be in 3D. Well, I hate to break it to you, but the original Final Fantasy VII was in 3D. I mean, it was what we would call outdated 3D, and our ability to create 3D graphics has vastly improved. And you know, that's the kind of individual that I have a problem with. Clearly, somebody who hasn't fully done their research, because somehow they're looking at Final Fantasy VII, the original, as a 2D, when it actually was a 3D. It was just, for its time, when it was released, decent graphics, because there were other RPGs released that had way better graphics than Final Fantasy VII, let's be honest. So I guess I also hope that, you know, fans don't forget the original. And I hope that we don't get a lot of people saying that, you know, that this is better than the original. Because to me, it's like, without the original, you wouldn't even have the remake. That's over my overall thoughts and concerns about this. I personally see it as a cash grab. I don't see it as them trying to expand upon the story, because if this was one of their more unpopular... Let's actually play this, all right? Let's say they had did this with Final Fantasy VIII, which isn't one of the more popular Final Fantasy games. I probably would be more prone to believe that they want to expand upon the story and improve it. And then once they had done that, they're like, all right, let's do 7, you know? People have been wanting a remake. Let's actually go back and remake 7. We'll do it just like we did Final Fantasy VIII. I would actually be more approving and believable that, hey, they want to add more artistic representation and story to Final Fantasy VII. But to me, they jump straight to the most popular. So to me, it's like, oh, wait a minute now. I don't know. To me, it just seems more like a cash grab. And, you know, hopefully, if you do get these games, hopefully, you know, they're up to your expectations. And hopefully, if they're not, you can be honest about it. And hopefully, if you do enjoy it, hopefully you're not one of the idiots that will be like, oh, it's better than the original. Because, well, without the original, you wouldn't even have the fucking remake. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video in some fashion or form. And remember, gamers, if you're not voicing your thoughts and concerns about the bullshit in gaming, you just might be a part of the problem, alright? And if you also can't be honest with yourself, let's be honest. There's a difference between, you know, being honest. Oh, yeah, this is probably a cash grab, but I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt because, well, it's not Electronic Arts. To me, that's, again, you know, you're admitting that this could potentially be a cash grab. I don't fully agree with you. I'm going to give it the benefit of doubt because it's not Electronic Arts. And I hope I don't get burned. And I hope you're wrong. As in you thinking I'm wrong. That's fine. All right? And I hope that these games can ultimately prove me wrong. That this has nothing to do with cash grab. But all the stuff that I've seen points to a cash grab. And not so much adding to the artistic view. If you agree, if you disagree, you can do a video response. Or you can comment down below. Even what you agree with or what you disagree with on what I say.